Hello, welcome to the second day of the 83rd Board of Governors. This year the topic is human health. We are honored to be live broadcasting from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem to you and to the entire world. As we promised yesterday, today's program is full of interesting and unique content that has been created in honor of this year's Board of Governors. Before we begin, let's hear from the university's management members.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, all.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Dear friends, thank you for being part of the Hebrew University community.
We thank you for being here with us and for us.
I'm standing here in one of the most magnificent locations in Israel, the historic amphitheater of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem in Mount Scopus. This is the place where we hold the ceremonies for the honorary doctorate people, for the PhD students, and it's usually full of people and very impressive.
I'm standing here on the balcony of our offices, and this, behind me, is the view that I see every day. You see, from here I can see every day the construction in progress on 2 new floors that will house the Mishael Cheshin Center for Advanced Legal Studies. This is the realization of your commitment to Hebrew University and one out of so many such projects being made possible with your support.
I'm standing on the balcony of the Truman Institute for the Advancement of Peace. Behind me is Mount of Olives. In the uncertainty of these days of the pandemic, we strive even more to develop our academic ties with the most excellent institutions around the world. We provide a warm welcome to researchers, lecturers, and students who arrive here from North and South America, Europe and Asia, Australia and Africa.
I'm standing here on the roof of the administration building in this beautiful Samfara campus at the heart of modern Jerusalem. Let's look around. With the Science Museum in the background, I wish that we can continue inspiring the young generation with the love of science. With the Knesset building at the background, I wish that we can continue carrying on research at the highest ethical standard. With the beautiful lawn in the center of the campus, I wish that we will see it packed with lively students again. With the Shaarei Tzedek Hospital and Hadassah Hospital behind it, both associated with the Hebrew University, I wish we can fight with our research the pandemic and win against the coronavirus.
I wish that in the coming year we will be able to shift our focus from urgent matters and extensive involvement of many of us in the here and now to our traditional role as intellectuals, focusing on basic research and thinking more about the long view.
We will emerge from these days of crisis better, more focused, and bring an even greater contribution to the state of Israel and to the world at large.
Dear friends, behind me you can see the house of Albert Einstein, because I'm in Germany now. But it is an opportunity to remember what was the legacy of Albert Einstein for us all. It was excellence in science and serving the Jewish people in the world through this excellence. That is the way that you have been helping us to achieve these goals for so many years, and it's time to wish ourselves better times to continue in serving the world in these ways.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you do and have done for the Hebrew University. We are all very proud of our tradition of innovation, and together we'll continue to innovate for a better Israel and for a better world.
I want to wish you and your dear ones great health. We wish very much to see you soon with us here physically in Jerusalem.
I would like to thank you for your continued support of the Hebrew University and its goals. I wish we can all meet face to face next year in Jerusalem.
With your support, we have achieved a great success in recent years, and we are committed to continue with this path.
Next year, I'm looking forward to seeing all of you here in the middle of the ceremony with all the buzz and the excitement. לשנה הבאה בירושלים. Next year in Jerusalem.
Amen. Thank you to the management members for their special message. Please join me in welcoming University President Professor Asher Cohen, who will deliver the Hebrew University's annual report. Professor Cohen, please.
Thank you, Romy. It is a great pleasure to see you, if virtually, today. Yes, we would much rather meet you here in Jerusalem as we normally do. But we are all aware of the pandemic situation that we have been confronting, and I'm truly happy that we have this virtual alternative. It even has some advantages. As I tape this speech, we expect many hundreds of our governors and friends to attend this session, and this is heartwarming. I will begin by describing to you the current situation and how we deal with the serious challenges that the pandemic brings with it. And yet, we should not lose sight of the bigger picture. The pandemic will at some point go away, hopefully sooner than later. The university is here to stay. We still have to pursue the vision for the future of our great university, and we continue to work very hard to fulfill our dreams. In the second part of this speech, I will describe a bit of what we have been doing to reach our long-term goals. The corona pandemic is with us now for more than half a year. In the beginning, it caught us by a total surprise. It started just before the spring semester of last year. We faced challenges in both teaching and research. Most of the teaching prior to the pandemic was done live. Out of approximately 3,000 courses that we teach across the university in any one semester, only a few dozens were done by remote online methods. Within a week, we had to shift, with very few exceptions, to almost a full curriculum of online remote learning. This required a huge amount of effort by both our academic and our administrative faculty. It also required patience and understanding from our students. I'm proud to tell you that we managed to do it successfully. We have two good indications of this success. The percentage of students that succeeded in finishing the semester was similar to these of past corona-free years. In addition, just as we do every year, we conducted a comprehensive survey of our students at the conclusion of the semester. We were happy to see that the students in this full online semester were as satisfied as in previous years from the teaching. Throughout this time, we also made a great deal of effort to continue our research activities. As you know, each research project usually lasts for a long time, and in many cases is severely disrupted if stopped before its conclusion. At the same time, we were fully committed to strict health procedures. We therefore identified these lines of research that could not be stopped and made every effort to continue them while employing strict health regulations. Lines of research that could be delayed were conducted only during times in which the health regulations were less severe. So, unfortunately, the overall research activity during this time was slowed, but we managed to continue all the research projects that would have been disrupted if stopped. There was another amazing development that took place during this time. Researchers at the university created within days some 60 new independent research projects that were directed at various aspects of the corona crisis. Re'em Sari will describe to you in his presentation some of the highlights of this research. I will just say that we expect some truly groundbreaking results that may benefit society and our fight against the corona to come out of these research projects. While maintaining all these activities, it was vital to make sure that we do not cause infection of the virus. To make sure that there are no health hazards, we established a unit that was in charge of identifying potential infections, doing the required epidemiological investigations, and both isolate and quarantine people if needed. I think we managed quite well. From the very beginning of the pandemic to this day, we are talking about more than 7 months, we only have 2 documented cases of people that got infected within the campus. And in both cases, we managed to contain very quickly the spread of the infection. At present, like the rest of the world, we are still dealing with the challenges of the COVID-19. About a week ago, on October 18th, we started our new academic year. The rector will describe in more details our plans for the academic year. Briefly, we opened the year with full remote online teaching programs. When the health situation improves, we will gradually resume live teaching. It is especially important for us to try and bring new first-year students to the campuses to experience it for the first time. I am sure you understand, however, that we will do it only when it is safe. The good news is that whether we will be able to resume some live teaching or be forced to stay all the way with remote teaching, we are fully confident that all students will be able to complete their studies as planned. As all of you know, the cornerstones of the university were laid 102 years ago as the first Zionist project in Israel. The Hebrew University has a long life expectancy, hopefully as close to eternity as human enterprises can be. I'm saying all this now to remind us that while we are dealing with a very serious crisis, it is a short-time crisis. At some point, hopefully soon, it will go away. So, while we handle the short-term challenges triggered by the pandemic, we should not lose sight of our long-term goals. And indeed, during this time, we continued to pursue our long-term goals. Our vision includes focusing on 4 major categories. Our first goal is to make sure that we have a world-class, top-notch research and teaching. This is our bread and butter. Like all research universities, we are defined by our success in this domain, such as the 8 Nobel laureates and countless other awards and achievements by our faculty and students. In this day and age, part of excellence in both research and teaching involves internationalization. Yes, the international activity is clearly hampered by the pandemic, but long-term-wise, it remains a top goal for us. We are a public university that is funded heavily, if not sufficiently so, by the country. As part of being a public university, we also focus on strengthening our connections with the industry and on being involved in the community in Jerusalem, in Israel, and in the Jewish world. Research is about pushing the envelope of knowledge. This is done by our faculty members in their individual labs, in libraries, and in various other means year-long. In addition, we identify research topics that we think are important and develop them even more by establishing research centers in which groups of researchers work together, often with multidisciplinary approach. This is absolutely vital for major discoveries. The pandemic did not stop us from building and expanding our special research centers. Let me review in brief 2 of them. You probably all heard about our new Computational Medicine Center. This center is in a way a marriage of medical research with computer science and big data. Why is it so important? Medical research progressed very impressively in recent decades, but the most challenging, debilitating diseases are still with us. When a drug is developed for a particular disease, it helps some patients but does not help others. The major reason for that is that these debilitating diseases are caused by numerous components that often include many different proteins and different types of genetical components that interact in complex ways to create such diseases. One needs to examine simultaneously many patients in order to identify different types of patients within a particular disease. Over the last few years, it became possible to address this complexity by our new developed knowledge of analyzing very large medical data sets and connecting them in novel ways to medical research. This type of research, which we call computational medicine, has a huge potential to provide remedies to many of the diseases that so far eluded us. We at the Hebrew University are fortunate to have all the expertise for computational medicine. In fact, some of it was even used in some of the corona research projects that Reem will talk about later. The pandemic did not stop us from continuing to build the center in the Ein Kerem campus near the Hadassah Hospital. On the other side of Jerusalem, in the Mount Scopus campus, we are building a center for digital humanities. A lot of research in the humanities is done by analyzing texts. Digital humanities aims to add another ingredient to this research. With this research, we can digitally scan huge amounts of text, and then we can focus on keywords or key concepts and find commonalities that are very difficult to do manually. We believe that digital humanities will augment the time-honored research done in the humanities and may add new insights to some of the basic questions asked in the humanities. We recently received a generous donation from the Alfred Landecker Foundation in Germany and built a new center for digital humanities. So far, I talked about research centers that were already established. I want also to tell you about a new center that we are about to establish, the Center for Sustainability, Environment, and Climate. I do not need to tell you that the climate on this planet is changing. We are already at the sad stage that we see it every day. This might be the most challenging issue that will be faced by the human race in the coming decades. This is a very broad issue that involves many dimensions. One can think of climate research, one can think of new technologies for producing food, one can think of alternative methods of energy and sustainability, one can think of the social and legal issues that are involved and the policies that may be required for it. The planned center will put all of these research perspectives and researchers under one roof and will enable us to develop a comprehensive and integrative approach that will help our country and the world in confronting the biggest challenge of the next generation. There is also an applied aspect to the climate and energy crisis. What you see in the picture is an aerial view of our Mount Scopus campus. The blue cells that you see are solar panels that were constructed throughout the campus and already save us a lot of energy. Just one word about funding. All these research centers that I talked about and many others are not funded by the government. We need to fund them primarily via philanthropy. I hope that our friends around the globe will help us in this crucially important goal. As I said in the beginning of my speech, in addition to excellence in research and teaching, we are committed to being involved in the community and to strengthen our connections with the industry. I don't have time to describe these activities. I do want to show you two pictures that are part of our resolve to connect with the industry. What you see now is a picture of our planned industrial park for high-tech, nanotech, and biotech companies that we plan to build in the Safra campus in Givat Ram. This plan did not stop during the pandemic. A few weeks ago, we actually started building it. This is a recent picture of the work that has already begun. The first building will be up by 2023, and it is going according to schedule. Finally, I want to end with thanks. Thanks to our wonderful faculty, both academic and administrative, for their outstanding work and amazing commitment during this crisis. Thanks to all the students that understood the challenges we faced and cooperated with us so nicely. Thanks to our loyal friends around the world that helped us so much during this time. I'm truly honored and privileged to be the president of a university that has such faculty, students, and friends.
Thank you, Professor Asher Cohen. We'll be seeing you again soon, very soon. Patty Glazer is head of Glazer Wiles Litigation Department and tops the short list of most sought-after trial attorneys for high-stakes litigation. Respected as a business trial lawyer, she also provides general legal counsel to publicly and privately held companies. Patty is also in the movie business and has produced a number of Hollywood films. Patty holds an honorary doctorate from the Hebrew University, and she is a proud member of the Hebrew University's Board of Governors and an exemplary lay leader. Let's listen in on a conversation between Professor Cohen and Patty Glazer. In the meanwhile, if you have questions for the management members, please ask now. You can submit your question via the chat. Let's watch together.
President Asher Cohen, it's my honor to be able to ask you a few questions this morning. What has been the biggest challenge to Israeli higher education during the corona pandemic?
I would divide the challenges into two categories. One category, the obvious one, is teaching. We couldn't bring students to the campus, and we had to teach them. And that all happened just towards the beginning of the second semester. And what we had to do is to shift all the way from live teaching. We have approximately 3,000 courses. We only had 30 or 40 online courses, and we had to shift to close to 3,000 courses within 1 week, and then to do the teaching. So that was one challenge. And in terms of the outcome, we actually did quite well. The semester was finished. The students got their degree if they finish or finished their semester. And generally speaking, they were quite satisfied. It's not that it was without problems, but they were quite satisfied with their teaching. The other category of challenge is research. And that can be divided into two in and by itself. One is the regular teaching, the regular research, which was disrupted. It was disrupted because you couldn't really go regularly to the labs because of inability to reach the campus. And some research projects were in the middle, where you often cannot stop. And I think we actually met that challenge as well, meaning that we don't have research projects that were stopped because of the pandemic, and everything that was necessary to be done was done. There are other research projects which we could suspend, and we suspended. So there is a little bit of damage here, but it's a short-term damage because those are research projects that one can continue afterwards. So it's slower, but it still works. The other research challenge is to try to help with respect to the virus, with respect to COVID-19 and its effects. And this is still an ongoing challenge that we are dealing with, I think successfully, but the outcome is only in the future to be judged.
Asher, is there a disproportionate disadvantage to whether it's a Palestinian or a Orthodox Jew to learn virtually, whether because they don't have the necessary equipment or access to necessary equipment? Are they being impacted negatively disproportionately?
You know, I can speak about the Hebrew University because it's possible that there was an adverse impact elsewhere. But at least at the Hebrew University, we made sure that everyone has technological access. People that didn't have, say, tablets or laptops, we provided them with. Sometimes we lent them, sometimes we actually gave it to them, depends on the situation, but we made sure that no one was left behind. And we don't know of any particular worse effect among the Palestinians, among the Israeli Arabs, or among the ultra-Orthodox. As far as we know, it was sort of normal. It still means that some students don't make it. Every year, some students don't make it. But it doesn't appear to be any different and fundamentally different from what it was before the pandemic. It was actually a very important goal of us to make sure that we do not leave people behind.
Do you think that Israeli higher education is going to emerge from this crisis markedly different than pre-pandemic?
In one respect, for sure. Teaching is never going to go back to what it used to be before the pandemic. We were already in the process of exploring all kinds of online teaching methodologies and combining them in one form or another with live teaching, but we were doing it in a kind of slow process. We examined all kinds of options, but we were not in a hurry, and it probably would have taken us 6-7 years to reach the point that we are already at because of the pandemic. It forced us to move things quickly. We did. And once the pandemic is over, and it will be over eventually, we will not go back to where we were. We will teach differently in a combination, we call it hybrid teaching, of some online and some live courses and some combination of online and live courses, depending on the domain and on the type of course. So yes, in this respect, there has been a fundamental change. In terms of research, I think we are doing well. I hope we will do even better in the future, but no fundamental change. We were, I believe, I hope, excellent before, and we are going to continue to be excellent in the future.
A couple of years ago at the Board of Governors meetings, you spoke of, and I'm quoting, digital dreams, end of quote, for Hebrew University. Has your vision changed since you've been president?
The short answer is no. In general, our long-term plans for research and for the development of the university did not change, simply because the pandemic, we believe, is a short-term issue. It might take a year, it might take 2 years. I hope it's going to be months away from us, but long-term goals haven't changed. So in fact, as the pandemic goes on, we started digging for our innovation park. The digging just started a few weeks ago on schedule. We will have a full-fledged innovation park within 4 to 5 years, just as planned. And the innovation park is part of my or our digital dream. We are developing the Computational Medicine Center, and it's going very well. In fact, some of the research that is going on with the pandemic will contribute to the Computational Medicine Center. And so it's working there as well. We just established a few months ago Digital Humanities, which is, I didn't talk about it, but it's part of the digital dream. And we did it in the middle of the pandemic. So the answer is, I still think that we are exactly in that trajectory for doing beautiful things with the technology while answering, in some cases, old questions differently.
Asher, what are your dreams regarding the humanities, history, political science, psychology, music. What are your dreams with respect to those elements of the university?
You can divide it again into two different categories. First of all, it's not a dream, it's a goal to keep being excellent in all of those domains, the social sciences, the humanities. But I do think that we have to combine, even in those domains, technology. Now, the technology here is not to change the questions and not to seek different answers, but to find ways to answer those questions differently. And I'll give you an example from the humanities. We have huge amount of data of testimony on the Holocaust. The Nuremberg trials have huge amount of data. Now, what is common to all of those testimonials? What is it that was at the core of the issues that went on in the Holocaust? In the past, people read it. And you know, we can read, it takes time, but we read and then we try to generalize, and some people are able to do it well. But with technology and focusing on key words, for example, or key issues that we can scan, we can generalize a lot better. The issues are the same, but the method of doing it is different. Similarly, in the social sciences, as I said before, we want to advance smart cities. Smart cities are, so to speak, about technology, because you can use technology to enhance and to improve life in the city. But the fundamental issue of smart cities are not technological. These are issues of civil rights, of balance between different rights, of knowing what to use and what not to use. Those are fundamentally social issues which are part of the social science. And I believe that they have to be part of the social science research as well. So yes, we are going to keep doing what we did it well, and we are going to keep doing them, but we are going to augment those types of research projects with new technologies that will help us answer those questions.
Growing up in America, one of the things you're taught in Sunday school is that we're the people of the book, and you also hear the expression, we're the chosen people. Chosen doesn't mean we're better, it just means we have more responsibility. That's what we were taught. How does that impact, if at all, Hebrew University's mission, considering it's obviously a wonderful institution? Are they impacted by those? The book I get, that's easy. The question is the fact that we have more responsibility, arguably, how does that impact it at Hebrew University?
The Hebrew University bread and butter is research and teaching, but we are deeply committed to social responsibility and to being part of the community. And I'll give you two examples of what we do. And those are just two. I can give you a lot more examples if you want. In the social science and humanities, we brought into the campus of Mount Scopus all the institutions that deal with child welfare. Those are civil institutions. It's not part of the activity of the Hebrew University. We brought them here in order for them to interact with our social science school, with our psychology department, to have our students being involved there, to help those institutions cope with the serious issues that they cope with. To me, it's part of doing well, of tikkun olam, of doing things the right way. We just now bring to the university an addiction center. Addiction is one of the new diseases that affect our society. In the United States, you know about the addiction to opiates, but there are all types of new addictions that are around. It's happening in Israel, unfortunately, as well, and not just in the secular community, in other communities as well. So we bring in an addiction center outside the university, but near the university, in order to help it, with our expertise, deal with issues of society. And the goal here is not to make money. It's not to enhance the reputation of the university. It's simply to do good because we are in a position to do good to the community.
What do you consider to be the most important contribution Hebrew University is making in connection with the pandemic?
Well, the jury is still out. You know, when you deal with biological issues, you, generally speaking, do not solve them in 6 months. These are really complex issues. I do believe that at least one of the research projects that you actually helped us fund, Patty, but one of those research projects is not only going to provide some therapy for this particular virus, but it's going also to provide a therapy for whatever else comes from the corona strand, because this COVID-19 is just one of a series of viruses that can come from there. And our aim is not just to deal with that particular virus, which is important in and by itself, but to provide a general solution. And I think that so far the results seem to suggest that we are on the right path. On top of it, the other big contribution that we think we are going to offer to the world is in the future. Right now it seems fine, but in the future, when we'll need thousands and thousands of tests for whatever it is that we want to see, we will have a method that will be able to generate maybe 150 or 200,000 tests within a day in one particular location. So if we need tests, we'll be able to get them and get very accurate results of them. So that's the other groundbreaking research project that we are dealing with, and I hope that this one actually within a relatively short time will be available for the public.
One of the wonderful things about Israel is that academicians are not in some ivory tower. They are very much a part of the community, much more so than in this country. And because of that, I would think that the impact of science, among other things, would be more significant in Israel.
One of my goals as a president was to make it even more apparent that we are part of the community. I say it again, our bread and butter is excellent research, top-notch research and top-notch teaching. But we have to be involved in the community. We are a public university, we are funded by the public. We have to be involved in the community. We are part of the community, and I think this message nowadays comes across as working.
Asher, one of the concepts that you've espoused and promoted is this notion of internationalism for Hebrew University. How has that concept been impacted by the pandemic in light of essentially the borders of Israel being closed?
Short-term wise, it was negatively impacting the internationalization. That's obvious. So we had less international students. Our students do not travel as much elsewhere. The research collaborations between us and other universities slowed down a little bit. But we all know that this is only temporary. In terms of long-term goals, it hasn't changed at all. And I actually think that because the Hebrew University continued to talk to other universities, at times when some universities didn't have the energy to do that, in fact improved our international collaborations, and we'll see the outcome of this in a short while. And in fact, you heard about the peace process with the Emirates. We now are in the middle of trying to establish connections with some of the universities in the Emirates. We are doing it, and hopefully it will happen within a short period.
So let me ask you an unfair question. What have you learned, and your family, what have you learned from the pandemic?
I see two things. First of all, I guess the more negative aspect is the realization of the fragility of this world. We lived in an optimistic world in which we thought that we are going to do good and the world is going to get better. And it's a linear progression upwards. And what the pandemic taught us is that everything is quite fragile. The earth is not as solid as we thought it is. Things can go in the wrong way. And I think for my generation, I guess it's your generation as well, this will not go away. We will know that there are some question marks after the pandemic is gone. But I also saw the resiliency. That look what we did at the Hebrew University with teaching and how we provide some answers to the challenge that the virus is posing to us. I see that as well. The resiliency of people, the ability to adjust, to do things differently, knowing that this is a situation that you have to deal with, so you deal with it. And I admire that. So, fragility and resiliency.
Listen, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. And if you, we should do this more often. We can do this once a month if you would like. But it's an honor to talk to you this directly, and it's also an honor to support Hebrew University. So thank you very much.
Well, Patty, you are one of our most esteemed friends. When I think about friends of the Hebrew University, you are the prototypical great friend. So talking to you is a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty and Asher. Here are some questions we received. The first one is to Professor Asher Cohen, please. Climate change is very high on the global agenda. How is the Hebrew University coping academically with the challenge?
Well, in one of my two talks, I already mentioned our plans to establish a center, but I want to say that we didn't start now. We now are establishing a comprehensive center, but we have research all over our campuses in different domains for many years now, and some of it is very successful. But on top of it, and that's what I try to show in the part of my talk, is that we do also things beyond research. We have a green campus in the Safra campus in Givat Ram. We have those photovoltaic cells in Mount Scopus. We are working to make the environment suitable for what's coming to us. This might be the biggest challenge that this generation and the next generation is going to face, and we are going to work very hard on all aspects of it: research, teaching, and connection to the community.
Thank you. Here's another question to you, Professor Cohen. Computational medicine is undoubtedly one of the jewels of the Hebrew University crown. How are we progressing in this implementing dream? How are we implementing this dream?
We are progressing very well. This is a huge project. Just to give you an idea of what it means, a huge project, the entire project would cost us about $150 million to finish. And we are already on our way to securing much of this fund. I wouldn't say much, but a fair amount of this fund is already secured. And we are working on building the building that I showed you before, and on establishing the big medical data sets, recruiting faculty members, which is essential, and organizing the center. So it's well on its way.
Thank you, Professor Cohen. Last year, we were greatly saddened by the passing of Mort and Barbara Mandel, only 1 month apart. For the last 38 years, Mort and Barbara were dear friends and extraordinary supporters of the university. While they supported the university financially, they helped achieve mutual dreams. They were so much more than that. They taught us how to think long-term, how to properly develop processes and set accurate goals, how to choose the right people for a job, and how to open doors to others, and through leadership, how to run a better university. We will forever remember Mort and Barbara Mandel, true friends of the Hebrew University who dedicated themselves to its success. We have prepared a tribute video honoring their memory. Please join me in watching this video.
In late 2019, Hebrew University mourned the loss of two long-standing lay leaders and pillars of our community, Barbara and Morton Mendel. Barbara and Mort celebrated a strong and loving marriage for 70 years, bearing the fruits of 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. The Mendels were highly respected philanthropists who were passionate about making a positive impact in Jewish communities in the U.S. and Israel. As benefactors and lay leaders of the Hebrew University, the Mendels provided transformational support for interdisciplinary research and scholarship, focusing mainly on the humanities and social sciences. As vice chair of the Jack, Joseph, and Morton Mendel Foundation, Barbara Mendel was a leading philanthropist and Jewish communal leader in Israel and the U.S. She emphasized the importance of ensuring the future generation of leaders who would emerge from the humanities and social sciences. For many decades, Barbara served as an inspiring leader for American Friends of the Hebrew University and the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. She was deeply committed to the university's growth and development, ultimately helping the university perceive itself as a global institution. As part of her active role in the university's Board of Governors, Barbara served as chair of the university's fundraising campaigns for over 2 decades. She also served in pivotal roles as international campaign co-chair, deputy chair of the Board of Governors, and deputy chair of the Executive Committee.
I would say that we are really blessed here. And I do thank you for the opportunity to serve again. And at my age, it's really exciting to have this happen. I'll do my best to stay in the job.
Barbara's 40-plus years of support and leadership in the American Friends of Hebrew University was far-reaching, serving as honorary chair and past president. Mort's business career began in 1940 when he and his brothers, Jack and Joseph, founded the Premier Automotive Supply Company. The company had tremendous success and went on to become one of the world's leading industrial parts and electronic components distributors. In 1953, the Jack, Joseph, and Morton Mendel Foundation was founded with the primary mission to help provide outstanding leadership for the nonprofit world. Mort maintained a decades-long partnership with the Hebrew University, building the institution's intellectual capabilities. His passion for nurturing leadership based on humanistic values greatly influenced the university and was at the core of the work of the Mendel Foundation in Israel and in the U.S. One of the crowning jewels in the projects he sponsored was the Jack, Joseph, and Morton Mendel School for Advanced Studies in the Humanities, a world-leading center of excellence. Israel's first graduate school in the humanities, the Mendel School, is reflective of the university's leadership in the humanities and will enable the cultivation of future leaders in this field.
I grew up in a wonderful home. Whoever I am is who my parents were. If Simon and Rose Mandel would know about my receiving this award in Jewish education, they would be very proud. Thank you.
In tribute to their contributions and unwavering devotion to the academic community, Barbara and Mort Mendel were granted honorary doctorates from the Hebrew University. The Mendels inspired many through their personal integrity, force of character, and steadfast resolve to make the world a better place. Through an emphasis on higher education, the arts, leadership development, and social service initiatives, Barbara and Mort Mendel created a legacy for the benefit of future generations.
May their memories be a blessing. We will now hear from the rector, Professor Barak Medina. Please.
Thank you, Romy. Dear friends, the annual meeting of the Board of Governors is an opportunity to thank you for your incredible support of the Hebrew University. The governors represent the stakeholders of this institution, namely Israeli society and the Jewish world. Your involvement in our activities, your material and moral support, as well as your advice and at times critique, ensure that we, the management of the Hebrew University, are held accountable to our stakeholders. I will not discuss here in detail issues related to the pandemic. We will refer to some of these issues in the panel that follows. Instead, I would like to offer a broader view of our main policies. This annual meeting of the Board of Governors is an opportunity for us not only to report on our activities, but also to self-reflection, to redefine what our goals and reorient our policies accordingly. The Hebrew University is a unique institution. Since its foundation a century ago, we are characterized by the integration of two ethos or mission statements. These can be referred to as an intrinsic academic excellence and instrumental one. The goal of intrinsic academic excellence is easy to understand, although very challenging to achieve. This is the essence of any academic institution. Clearly, academic excellence has positive consequences. The advancement of science is beneficial for humanity. It encourages critical thinking, contributes to social mobility, and more. But the ideal of intrinsic academic excellence means that these are merely side effects, not goals that the institution is expected to actively and purposely pursue. Academic excellence is defined narrowly as producing innovative research and educating students to master the scientific method. The uniqueness of the Hebrew University is that while we are committed to this universal ideal of intrinsic academic excellence, we are also obligated to instrumental academic excellence. In a nutshell, it is the idea that we have to be academically excellent to serve Israeli society, the Jewish people, and humanity through academic excellence. This is a challenging mission. It makes one's life as an administrator much more complicated, but also more interesting and rewarding. I would like to briefly illustrate how this dual commitment, both to intrinsic and instrumental academic excellence, is translated into specific policies. Consider first the issue of undergraduate students. For the last 3 years, we have experienced a surge in demand to study at the Hebrew University. The number of applicants has dramatically increased, no less than 40%. To this, we should add a somewhat surprising increase in the number of international students, even in the era of COVID-19. This prosperity is mostly the result of our dedicated academic and administrative faculty, whose hard work is translated to an increase in student satisfaction from their studies here. I am grateful to our faculty members for their extraordinary commitment and devotion to innovative teaching during this period of distance learning, and to our administrative staff that now provides services to 30% more students without an increase of even one additional staff member. This is also an opportunity for me to thank, on behalf of the entire Hebrew University community, to our deans, the deans of our 10 faculties. These 4 women and 6 men are the university's main driving force, and they are the ones who are to be primarily credited for our success. While we have increased the number of admitted students by about 30%, benefiting from having among them the brightest students in Israel, our capacity is limited. Regrettably, we cannot admit all the excellent candidates who would like to join us. But here is where our commitment to instrumental academic excellence comes into play. Instead of just enjoying the excess of demand, we continue to work extremely hard and to invest vast resources to realize our social mission of providing equal opportunity to all. We do not take shortcuts such as affirmative action programs. Instead, we operate one-year preparatory programs to provide students from disadvantaged backgrounds, Haredi students, East Jerusalemite Palestinians, new immigrants, Olim from all over the world, and many more. More than 1,200 students study at our 5 one-year preparatory programs, Mechinot. And in addition to our Mechinot, our Office of the Dean of Students, under the wonderful leadership of our Dean of Students, provide all students in need with comprehensive support. We are committed to make sure that no one is left behind. And thus, we provide more scholarships for disadvantaged students than any other Israeli university. We allocate fundings from our regular budget for scholarships for those in need, for operating the Mechinot, for providing one-on-one tutoring, and much more. And this all translates to a very low rate of students dropout, about 5%. And here comes into play the interaction between instrumental and intrinsic academic excellence, the commitment to serve our society, to provide equal opportunity to all, serves our obligation to intrinsic academic excellence as well, because it is not only the recognition that exceptional cognitive skills are evenly distributed among all parts of society. We also understand that to provide good academic education, it is absolutely critical to have a diverse body of students, to create a multicultural environment. Diversity is what makes us academically and not only socially better. These are all strategies which we are proud and of which we are proud, and we are blessed to have so many individuals and foundations as our partners in pursuing these policies. Consider next the issue of research. As a result of our commitment to intrinsic academic excellence, we invest resources in 3 main aspects. One is a substantial increase in the number of our faculty members. In recent years, we have achieved a net increase of about 5% in the number of faculty members each year. And as a result, given retirements, more than 1/4 of our current faculty were recruited in the last 5 years. The market for faculty positions is extremely competitive, with an average of more than 20 candidates competing for each position. Accordingly, we were able to recruit truly excellent researchers, among which about 15% are non-Israeli citizens. A second aspect of strengthening our international position in terms of research is an increase in the number of graduate students. Here, too, we have benefited from an increase of about 20% in the number of master and doctorate students, mostly in the experimental sciences. And finally, we invest substantially in improving our research infrastructure. In the last 2 years, we have dramatically increased funds toward building new labs for our new recruits, furnishing the labs with state-of-the-art equipment, and investing in maintenance and research services. All 3 aspects, recruiting new faculty, providing scholarships for more graduate and students, and investing in equipment and research services, are very costly. However, we believe that these costs are justified. They are essential to achieving a surge in our research productivity, just as we have achieved our aims in the context of undergraduate students. We focus on enhancing our research in physics with an emphasis on quantum information, nanotechnology, and in the study of the environment, agriculture, and food. In addition, we work hard to maintain our international leading position in fields such as math, biomedical research, and computational neuroscience. But here, too, our commitment to instrumental academic excellence, in addition to the intrinsic one, is relevant. There is a general trend, both in Israel and globally, of universities giving preference to the so-called STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and math, over humanities and social sciences. Indeed, the experimental sciences are financially more profitable as public finance there is higher and the prospect of commercialization is tempting. These are fields in which measuring results is easier, and hence excellence in these fields is more rewarding in terms of most international rankings. Nevertheless, our approach is different. We believe that humanities and social sciences, law and social work, education and business administration are all critical for obtaining our unique goals. They are critical for understanding our cultures and our histories, for critical evaluation of our government and society, for the entrenchment of the values of liberal democracy. We thus have increased the number of faculty members in these fields too, have invested more in scholarships for graduate students, and more. In addition, we work hard to increase interdisciplinary research and teaching to build bridges between natural sciences on one hand and humanities and social sciences on the other hand. These initiatives include research in digital humanities, artificial intelligence, internet and society, the study of smart cities, computational medicine, cognitive and brain sciences, public health and sustainability, and more. We are aware of the fact that we have not reached all our goals yet. We are not successful in all fields. For instance, there is much room for improvement in the context of the scope and quality of our research. Our research is very good, and yet we still need an additional boost there. In addition, we still have room for progress in terms of diversity, mainly among our faculty, and several other aspects. We were lucky to enter this global crisis in a very good shape, both academically and financially. And we were particularly lucky to have such a wonderful community, faculty, administrative staff, and students. I'm confident that together, with your support and enthusiasm, we will be able to make additional steps to becoming even better. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Medina. If you have additional questions, please ask now. You can submit it via the chat. The events of the last year have forced the university to change how and where it conducts teaching and research, and campus life has been altered beyond recognition. The university has dedicated much effort towards maintaining academic and research activities and providing students with the best possible academic experience. How have the students been experiencing the COVID-19 crisis? What unique challenges have they faced? And how has this affected their academic experience? We are pleased to introduce a select group of students to share their experience from the past year. Joining them are two faculty members, Professor Muna Khoury-Kassabry, Dean of the School of Social Work, and the Dean of Students, Professor Guy Arpaz.
Hello, everyone. We have gathered here to discuss some of the aspects that has to do with the effect of the pandemic on our daily lives here at the Hebrew University. We asked a few faculty members and students to share with us their thoughts, their experience, the way they deal with the challenges that this special situation has brought to us, and their wishes for this academic year. So we are very happy to have with us brilliant faculty members and students, and I think we'll start by each of you simply introducing yourself and share with us a few of your thoughts about this unusual period in which we are still living. So Muna, maybe you will start.
Thank you, Barak. So my name is Muna Khoury-Kassabry, and I'm the Dean of the School of Social Work and Social Welfare and advisor for minority affairs for the Hebrew University president. And I think this period was very shocking and was like something that we didn't expect, especially because it's taking longer than what we expected. And when it started, we were all sure that it will be at these days, we will be teaching regularly and working regularly. And unfortunately, we are now in October, and next week the academic year will start, and we will start it in online teaching. So I think this is one of the major things that we have to get ready again for it and rethink of our beginning of this year.
Yeah. Thank you, Muna. Menachem, please.
Hi, my name is Menachem Estrik. I born in Israel, and I learned before in the very religion, like yeshiva or something like this. After this, I go to do the mechina, and I start my...
You went through a mechina after leaving the Haredi world. 2 years, 2 years of mechina and psychometry, and after this, I start to study medicine. I'm in the 2 years. It's hard for me because I have ADHD, and it's hard to sit in front of the computer hour and hour and hour. Also, in the past year, we do the dissection. In the medicine, it's very hard to do dissection without to do this really hands-on. Guy.
Hello, my name is Guy Arpaz. Like Muna, I come from Haifa. I'm a member of the law faculty and Department of International Relations. Last 2 years, I'm serving as the university's Dean of Student. And my personal challenge is to juggle between serving as a Dean of Student, serving as a teacher at the Hebrew University and teaching through the Zoom, and serving as a parent who has to assist his small child at home.
What was your main challenge as a Dean of Students in these
As
times?
the Dean of Student, I'm faced with this concern in the sense that I believe it is challenging enough to be a student of the Hebrew University in normal times, and the corona only exacerbates the difficulty, and it creates this potential risk of academic Darwinism, whereby the strong would overcome and the weak might fail. And when we speak about those who are more vulnerable, I can think of students who come from non-privileged socioeconomic backgrounds, or students who belong to a first generation to higher education. And our role at the university is to address mainly those groups and try to alleviate the hardship and allow them to overcome the difficulties.
Hi everybody, so my name is Joanna Bana, and I am a PhD student in biochemistry and bioinformatics at the Hebrew University. And actually 2020 was my first year as a PhD student with a very
What did you study before?
Biochemistry, also at Oded Livne lab, and my first degree was in biology and chemistry. So I stayed...
At the Hebrew University?
Yes, all my degrees are
Where are
here.
you from originally?
Jaffa.
Jaffa.
Yes, I'm originally from Jaffa. Actually, I'm an Arab Christian originated from Jaffa. I also a fellowship at the Neubauer family. Yeah, so it's also very important to mention. And as I said, this was my first year as a PhD student in a new project, and the pandemic affected us very hard, you can say. I have a computational and experimental projects, and as an experimental scientist, the fact that we can't come to our labs and perform our experiments blocked our progress in our experiments and in our research. Actually, the first quarantine, we couldn't come to the labs for like 6 weeks. Now in the second quarantine, we know better. So we know when to come and what to do and be more cautious, and we can still work although the quarantine, but still the fact that I cannot meet my friend, my colleagues in person, and everything had to be in Zoom. Courses I take, courses I teach, exactly. It's very difficult. I am teaching next week the academic year will start, and I'm teaching a very important course for the biological student, and it's very. We don't know how it's gonna. It's very challenging.
Okay.
We had a lot of meetings with the staff to try and understand how we can do it better. And in my experimental hands-on experiments, we can do it at home. We need all the facilities in the lab. I missed it so much, and that helped me remember why I am here, what I'm doing, and to love it even more. So,
to miss it,
it's nice. So
good. Muna, could you please tell us how this year has started? How was the first week of the semester?
I think it started good. Everyone was ready, and we prepared everyone before that for the teaching in Zoom, and most of our staff members participated in the training that the university offered, and also we offered another training for our staff because we wanted them to learn more about the clinical courses, how to teach them. So we offered a few workshops for our faculty members and for the TAs. And I think one of the things that we noticed that everyone is adapted to the new situation, but still everyone is talking how much we miss coming to the university and teaching classes and everything.
I think one of the really wonderful things that we found during this pandemic is the willingness of our students to volunteer, to take part in assisting others dealing with the difficulties during the pandemic. And Menachem, of course, is one of those students. Could you please share with us some of your activity during the pandemic?
First of all, I want to say that in my year, I can tell that I don't think he has any student that need help. That all people help in the university in my year.
But so you see greater cooperation among the students.
Of course. I saw this before, but now it's really.
Yeah, it's very clear.
Very clear. Another thing, I went in MADA and I work 24 hours, something like this, with the people that has COVID-19.
In an ambulance?
In an ambulance, and to do the exams and with a lot of things to connect with this pandemic. If we don't do it, no one will do it. So
you just volunteered working in an ambulance, risking yourself
to
assist others?
I go from home, I go to some place to do the corona exam.
That's wonderful. Guy, your experience as a teacher, teaching through Zoom?
My experience was better than expected. I was very much concerned, both personally and also on a...
I should say that I teach this semester a course that I've been teaching for the last 23 years. And I've never been so anxious before teaching. It's preparing and making the efforts. So I'm excited about that. Your experience?
It is very different and difficult in the sense that you are accustomed to enter a class and see the eyes and see the students and see the reactions. And it's very different, and I'm actually looking forward to returning to the classrooms. And my experience as the Dean of Students at the beginning of the year is this tsunami of emails and phone calls from students. Many of them express concerns and hardships, but many of them also phone and write to thank us for what we do for them. Only this morning I got a phone call from a single mom, 7 kids. One of them is very much challenged. And she said she simply doesn't have the technology to start the year. And immediately we found some solutions, and she was very grateful. I spoke yesterday with a student who said that without our financial intervention, he would have become homeless in 2 weeks' time. So you get many phone calls and emails. Some are very grateful, some are very concerned, and it's a...
Yeah, the Dean of Students... The Office of the Dean of Students actually handed out close to 200 laptops, right, to students in need. And in the summer, we provided urgent financial support to those in need. But of course, the needs are much greater than what we have, and I think this is the main challenge there, right? Students, what do you hear from students? They cannot find work these days, right?
Yes, certainly the major challenge is the financial challenge, and what is concerning is that we are not speaking only about the regular students with the regular hardship, but the hardship also expands to normal students from regular
broader circles of
yes,
students.
exactly. So it actually broadened the circle of hardship, and it's very difficult with limited resources to
That's because
address.
it's harder to find job these days.
Exactly, or it's more difficult to return to the parents and ask for assistance when the parents themselves are not working. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Joanna, your experience as teacher so far?
Actually, it's very hard. I think as a teaching assistant, I was regularly teaching in a class with a student. I can see where I could see them and ask them questions and to see their faces. And now in Zoom, we ask them to open the cameras, but not always they can or they have the ability. And sometimes you feel like you talk by yourself. It's very hard. Especially if the class is small and you have a few students. But still, we try to do it in our best way, to answer the question, to be more available for the students. We're giving them more information. They have our mails. They have places to ask forms in the course. And we adapted the course to be more accessible for the students. It's not an easy course. So yeah, we hope that at the end of the semester everything will be more calm and maybe we will...
Maybe we'll be able to return.
I wish.
Yeah, we expect that we will.
Or at least to do the exams.
Yeah. You know, we are experiencing a huge increase in the demand of students to come to study here at the Hebrew University. Can you speculate what are the reasons for this increase?
First, there are more awareness to the Hebrew University, to academic degrees from all places. I can say, and myself, when I started 7 years ago, the awareness wasn't from where I came, from Jaffa, wasn't really high. I think that because of a lot of people my age or smaller, now they can't go abroad, do the trips. They don't have what to do. They can't even work. So they say, okay, let's start our degree earlier. So I think that you can see also this year there is a great increase in the new students.
What is your experience in terms of this increase in the number of students? What do you think there are reasons for that?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with Joanna that a lot of people, first of all, a lot of people don't have other options to do. We know that a lot of people want to go for a trip or to work. We can talk about that Jewish people go to trips after the army, but the Arab students usually study work for 1 year. And now a lot of people and parents contact me and they say, no, my kids can't work. There is nowhere to work. Maybe it's better to go to the university and start studying. But I think also one of the things, I totally agree with Joanna, people are more aware about the importance of having an academic degree. We had all the time this debate about whether you can work or success without. And I think more and more people, even though we think that there is this generation that will be successful and will be able to succeed in life without the academia, a lot of people are noticing that you can do it. Irregular people can do that, but not everyone. And more people want to come to the university and have an academic degree. So I think it's one of the things that, and especially if you come to the best place in Israel, the Hebrew University.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we'll conclude with a round of wishes. What would you wish, hope for in this unusual academic year? What is your expectation from yourself personally, from the institution, from the country, from the world? Make a wish, but be careful. It might, it might come true. I can share with you my wish, not as rector,
but as faculty member. I'm doing law, constitutional law. I'm a law professor, and I'm constantly addressed by lawyers, by the media, by others to give advice, to help in all those small aspects of dealing with the political and constitutional crisis that we are in for the last year or so. And from my perspective, I wish that we will be over with this political and constitutional crisis, to be able to return to, do research on more abstract, or less here and now aspects of our activities. And of course, this will mean that our situation has improved. I think that we are facing challenging times, not only because of the external things that beyond of our control with the COVID-19, but I'm not sure that our government, our institutions sufficiently address the difficulties that we face. We try very hard here at the university to deal with the issues, but it's of course we are part of this environment, and I wish that at least those aspects that are under our control, aspects that has to do with governance and things like that, will be better addressed. Guy, your wish?
Yes. Maybe I have two wishes. First, concerning the country and the university, when you travel around the country, you see a lot of conflicts and dividing lines and violence. And the community and society is very much challenged. We had better times. And I hope for the university that we would be able to maintain or isolate ourselves from
a bubble.
Yes, and maintain this oasis and continue with issues of diversity and mutual assistance, as Chaim mentioned, and maybe be a bit different from different from many other aspects of the Israeli society. And as the Dean of Students, I hope that at the end of the year we would be able to say that not only that the Hebrew University is the leading academic institution, and not only that we have the best body of students, but we also provided the best support, the best and most effective support to each and every student facing those very difficult times.
Menachem, your wish?
I think in my year we studied together Christian and Muslim and Jewish, religion, not religion. I hope to stay like this and in all of your degree.
Yeah, you feel, I think mainly in the Karem campus, there is this sense of togetherness, of multiculturalism, of accepting others, disregarding their religion, their affiliation, right?
At the election, we are our friends, no matter what I think or other people think. I hope in my study, I think some people, they are Haredi and they learn in the academy. Even now I not, but I have very, very connection to my past. And
so you wish that there would be an increase in the number of Haredi students?
Yeah, of course. I don't think
they have the ability.
Yeah, they have the ability. If people want, they can finish degree.
Joanna, what are your wishes for this year?
I hope that the academic year will be good. The students will maintain their success, and they can have good grades and really study, not only have a good grades, but also study in these conditions. And that I will also progress in our...
Your first science paper.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
There's a few on the way, so hopefully that we will be able to also publish them. And in my personal life, actually, I'm supposed to get married in June, but whoever knows what will happen till then.
Mona?
So you and the guy actually touched the issue of the government and the situation, and
politics. Wow.
Politics, yeah, I can't ignore that, especially as a dean of the School of Social Work. And this actually catastrophe just let us realize how bad the situation in Israel in a lot of levels in the education system, and the gaps in the education system, in the health system, in the social system. And I think maybe one thing that we should learn from that, and I hope, you said maybe my wishes will come true, I'm not sure, but I hope that we will learn that we don't need to wait in order to fix all these problems in this, in our all welfare systems and other systems, because we know that one of the major problems that we had now, because we got to this situation not ready, and because of all the gaps that we have in the Israeli society between the privileged and non-privileged, and the Arabs and Jews and Haredi society, and all these things just became more and more problematic in this situation. So I think we should learn from that.
Right.
And another thing that I want to say maybe to all of us, that we should learn that we are resilient and we can cope with a lot of challenges and difficulties. And although it was a very challenging year, we had also learned a lot of positive things to do from this period. And we can just take these positive things and do them in regular days after the Corona ends, hopefully soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was really a fascinating discussion. I learned a lot. I think that we all have great hopes of this academic year. And I think that the main wish that we have is that we will be able to meet together here in Jerusalem in next June. Thank you so much.
Thank you to the student panelists and best of luck. Here is one of the questions we received. It's a question from René to Professor Medina. Do you anticipate any financial benefits or challenges with the hybrid teaching after the pandemic is over?
Thank you, Romy. Before I'll address this question, I just want to refer briefly to the issue that was raised in the live discussion in the chat about the lack of women in the university's administration. Of course, this is something that we are all aware of, and we hope very much that we will benefit from a more diverse, gender-wise leadership. I can say that both vice rectors are women, and I definitely hope that once my term is concluded, a woman faculty member will take this position. And of course, this is an issue that we all hope that will be resolved in the coming future. As I already said, out of our 10 deans, 4 are women and 6 are men. And this is a more rational or legitimate distribution. And as I said, all that I can do is to hope that there will be a change sooner rather than later. As for the issue of the benefits and the challenges of distance learning, I would just say that one aspect, benefit of distance learning is the possibility of inducing discussions among students, in-class discussions. You know there is this feature in Zoom of discussion rooms. And the secret that any teacher knows is that students study best from one another rather than from their instructor. And the opportunity to discuss, to have this more structured discussions is an important aspect of providing better teaching and learning. In addition, I think the most promising prospect of distance learning is that of inter-campus teaching, the ability to teach the same course or to study the same course from various campuses. Of course, in our case, it is an important benefit. It will enable us to bring the campuses at least virtually closer, and it will, something that already started, enable us to hold courses and even entire study programs together with with other international universities. We have such programs, the GIFCA program with the Freie Universität in Berlin, and other initiatives. And I'm sure that this will help our efforts to become more globalized. The main cost there, as I said, is that the lack of interaction between teacher and students and among students themselves. But this is an issue we definitely hope will be resolved in the coming weeks or at least month. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Medina. Every year at the Board of Governors, the university recognizes their donors by inscribing their names upon the Wall of Life and the Wall of Benefactors. This gesture is appreciation. Its gesture of appreciation is meaningful for the university and donors alike. The official ceremony will take place next time the board meets in person. In the meanwhile, to recognize and congratulate the donors who were inscribed this year, let's move to the walls and look at the new inscriptions in honor of the university's donors.
For the world that awakes in the dawning light that breaks, and for the sunlight kissing my face, thank you. And for the stars out on parade at the ending of each day, so even in the dark I'm saying thank you. When I look at the world around me and breathe in the breath you gave, every beat of my heart is singing thank you for everything. If you lead me to still waters, if I'm caught in the hurricane, wherever you lead I'm singing thank you for everything. Thank you for the gift of friends who know everywhere I've been and loved me back home again. Thank you. And for the ones who let me down and taught me what I know now of forgiveness and the freedom I found. Thank you. Yeah. When I look at the world around me and breathe in the breath you gave, every beat of my heart is singing thank you for everything. If you lead me to still waters, if I'm caught in the hurricane, wherever you lead I'm singing thank you for everything. Thank you for everything. Yeah. Every second I live is a moment you give, so I welcome them in. I welcome them in. The day after day, the joy and the pain. I welcome them in. I welcome them in. Thank you for the hardest parts and the beauty of these scars, even though it broke my heart. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. When I look at the world around me and breathe in the breath you gave, every beat of my heart is singing thank you for everything. If you lead me to still waters, if I'm caught in the hurricane, wherever you lead I'm singing thank you for everything.
Thank you to the many donors. The Hebrew University appreciates your support, especially during such challenging times. We will now hear our third and final update on the university's research activities and accomplishments on COVID-19 and how this is helping the world. Vice President for Research and Development, Professor Re'em Sari. Please.
Hello, everybody, and good evening. Good morning to those of you in the US. I'm going to present to you today the status of the research at the Hebrew University during this past year, which is under the corona pandemic. I will give you a general picture of how research overall is doing under corona. I'll give you some numbers, but then I'll focus to show you what we were doing in respect with the corona research. Let's start with some numbers that can summarize the research or characterize the amount of research or success in research if you want. Here are the ISF, our main founder of the university, the Israel Science Foundation. And you see a growth in this past year from 293 to 321 submitted grants and a comparable growth in the number of grants awarded. So this partially reflects our success and partially reflects the fact that we have younger faculty recruits in larger amounts and we're growing and therefore more success in grants. You can see that especially in equipment for new faculty, which grew tremendously from 7 last year to 21 this year. Several funding agencies gave funding directly for coronavirus and we got a significant fraction of those, more than our fraction in the overall university horizon in Israel. We are still in a very good place in the European Union in the number of ERC grants that we're receiving. This is our position 10th in all of Europe, which is really impressive when some of these are not really universities, like Max Planck Institute is a huge entity. The Hebrew University is number 10 with 146 million euros obtained so far in the Horizon 2020 program, which is running for 5 years, and just 40 million euros this year, so more than the average amount that we used to get so far. So we're doing quite well. Here are some prominent grants, not related to Corona, but in the time of Corona, actually submitted before, but received during this time. All these amounts, more than $1 million per grants. These are impressive grants with people from the Faculty of Agriculture, the Faculty of Medicine, Life Sciences and Earth Sciences. The university is doing well on research. ISUM, our tech transfer company, is also doing well. Many licenses, research agreements, spin-offs and funds coming to the portfolio companies that we have. Our commercial activity is also going well. These numbers reflect more or less the averages that we have in good years. So this is doing well. ISUM has not been hurt by Corona, which is also good. Again, through ISUM, we also have several grants coming for research in Corona. In things which are practical, fighting the disease in several ways. Okay, so now let me get to the main focus of this talk, which is a little taste of our Corona research. And this comes in several avenues. We have prevention, different ways to prevent people from getting infected, vaccination and treatment of the disease, understanding the implication for society, the psychological implications on people and the economical implications, and also a very strong effort in screening, understanding who is sick and who is not, so when we isolate people, we can do that differentially. Okay, so here is an example of a way to prevent corona or to prevent people from getting corona. Special coatings. And this one uses copper, which is well known to be an antiviral agent, and it is doped with some other materials. And you can see that research we have done at the university shows that together with this doping, we get a huge reduction, several orders of magnitude, in the amount of viruses that are left alive after this coating, and there are several alternatives to that. There are several different groups working on similar things, and this kind of technology can be incorporated into masks, into clothing, into the alcohol gel and soaps, etc. So this is a very important avenue. In the geography department, people are investigating the ability of the coronavirus to spread by doing simulations of people going from one building to another for all different reasons, and how the pandemic spreads, what are the most important things to prevent, and therefore give advice to policymakers when they take their decisions. In the business department and economy, we're investigating how people make their decision under the stress of corona. Are they more susceptible to listen to advice that they are getting? Are they more risk averse when they are doing their financial decision? And how do they respond financially to the pandemics? This research already shows that there are important changes that people are making because they are afraid the future is not as clear as it used to be. Another interesting research by Shachar Arzi from the Faculty of Medicine is MRI images of the brain, where he monitors the functionality of social interactions and where they are located in the brain and what they are influenced by and what they are connected to. And that informs us about the ways to prevent the harmful effects of social distancing. There is even a product that he developed that allows people to choose better what are the way they want to spend their times and how, what kind of connections they want to keep with their friends and where to invest their time and energy. A very big push that we have at Hebrew University is screening and treatment of coronavirus, and I'll focus the rest of my talk about these 2 points. So let's start with screening. There is a big effort by Nomi Habib and Nir Friedman, who came up with an ingenious method to detect the virus simultaneously in many people. So the way it works is they collect samples from several people that need to be detected. This can be 1,000 or maybe 10,000 people in the future. They do some sophisticated procedure to bind some marker to each one of these examinees. Then they mix the samples from everybody together and they throw everything into the sequencing machine. This is a very different kind of machine than the PCR machine that you usually use to do tests. This actually gives the DNA sequence of whatever you pour into it. So what this machine gives you is the DNA of the virus if it's there, but because it was bounded before with a marker, you can tell which of the examined people has the virus or contributed the virus to the sample. So when the virus comes to this machine, it could come from this guy and this guy together, but each virus will be connected to a different marker, and we will be able to tell that this guy gave the virus, this guy gave the virus, and those guys didn't. And in this way, they already succeeded to do 10,000 people in one shot, and they believe they can do 10,000 people later on. So what are the advantages and the disadvantages of this method? First, many people together, and therefore it's going to be much cheaper. Estimate is about $2 per test, which is maybe 10 times less expensive than what we currently have. It is a sensitive method, perhaps not as sensitive as the standard PCR, but still sensitive enough. So it's very good for screening of population which is not suspected to be sick. It's inexpensive, we already said. And the added values is that you get detailed data on the virus and on its mutation. You can actually say that the virus, the coronavirus, that this guy has and that this guy has, they're not exactly the same, and maybe you can figure out from that, for example, who contributed the virus to who, what was the chain in which the virus spread in the population. So very accurate information can come from that. So you can also use the same technology, or basically while you're doing the corona test, you can also see some other kind of viruses that will be attached to the same markers of the same people, and you can say which of them has a flu and should stay at home because he has a flu rather than because he has corona. Another effort on the way to find treatment and vaccination for the coronavirus is an effort at the Faculty of Medicine by Alex Rubinsky, Ilan Rosenshine, and others. And in this, they take different parts of the virus, and they see the reaction of the body, the antibodies produced in the body, to each of the parts separately. Most research in the world, this is done in many places in the world, but most regions in the world, they look at the spike, while the approach of this group was to take a whole holistic approach and inspect the response of our body to each different part in this virus. And each part like that activates the immune system is called an antigen, and they managed to build a large array of antigens located at different places of the coronavirus. It could be at the spike, but even different places at the spike, or at different places at all. And they produced a list of responses of different people to the different parts of the virus. Now, computationally, they take this and decide what are the best combinations of sites that are needed in order to attack the virus. And this is very important because when you give treatment to a specific virus, the virus usually mutates. And if you're only attacking a specific point at the virus, after a certain time, which depends on the kind of virus you're dealing with, you get an immunity of the virus to the treatment because the virus went through mutations. Their approach that looks at different parts of the virus will try to prevent that by attacking several different points simultaneously by the same treatment. Another very interesting effort led by Ofer Mendelbaum, again from the Faculty of Medicine, is to make the virus ineffective in the following way. The virus, through this spike, the same spike that we have seen before, attaches itself to a certain receptor at the body called ACE2. So it's this spike that is being attached to this receptor. So what can you do? You can avoid that by taking some particles which are very similar or actually identical to the receptor in the body and spread them in the patient. Those receptors will go and block the binding points of the virus and make this virus ineffective. It won't be able to attack the body anymore because all its binding points will be blocked. Similarly, you can take that part of the virus, distribute it in the body, and that will go and block the receptor at the body and will not allow it to accept the virus. So what these figures are showing here and here is that actual experiments on mice already done show that you can decrease the amount of mortality that you get in mice from coronavirus by a significant factor if you do this treatment. So this seems like a very promising avenue. And of course, we should now test it on humans to see if it works in real life. To do all that, we need special laboratories that can host these experiments under safe conditions, safe for the environment and safe for the researchers that are getting into the laboratories. The level of safety that we need is BSL 3. Almost the highest level exists. So we need something with hoods that take the air outside, completely sealed from the surrounding, very good ventilation, and a significant protection for the people working in there. We have already an operational lab like that. This is an old lab that we refurbished and brought it back to functionality in order to deal with the coronavirus. And this is actual team that is dealing with some experiments right there. And there are already external companies that are asking us to work in this lab, because this is the only lab like that in Israel that allows researchers to use it and do experiments in it. This lab is just a small version of what we're going to have at the end. It's already operational. This is what we're aiming for, a bigger room which also has option to treat animals inside. This is our design, which is over 100 square meters of labs. And again, it's going to be a national lab serving all the universities in Israel and other companies. It's important to have mice in there, I already said. And we need also to produce these mice. There is a problem that mice inherently are not susceptible to coronavirus. They don't have the same receptor ACE2 that we talked about before that can absorb the coronavirus and allow it to infiltrate the cells. So mice are basically immune to corona, and this is good for them, but it's bad for us because we can't test corona on mice. So there is a way to make a modification to the mice to be able to make them susceptible for corona, and then you can make experiment on them. There are several different ways to do that. One is to infect them with some other virus which changes their cells and make them now susceptible to corona, or completely change their genome in our GEM facility and create a transgenic mice. We're working on both options. The first option with the lentivirus is already working, and we have mice that are susceptible to corona produced in this way. The second option we tried. The construct that you need to inject into the cell is too long for the standard method to work, so that first tried fell, and we're now trying in a second technique to try to make transgenic mice this way. Meanwhile, we're buying mice from external companies that already managed to do transgenic mice, and we're ordering some other mice from China. So we're trying basically to get this set up both internally and from external sources. So let me summarize here our different efforts. We have efforts in treating the disease. We have the production of antigens and therefore antibodies that are fighting corona. We are on our way, so haven't done that yet, to inject them into animals, and therefore those animals will produce the antibodies that can already serve as a passive vaccination for this disease. We found agents that can block the attaching point of the coronavirus to the cells. This is done completely on animals, and we should do that in larger numbers and larger quantities to improve the result and to test it on humans. We're working on producing animals. Some of them we already got. We're working on producing our own, some of it successfully, some of it not so far. And the lab is expected to arrive here in December. So I hope that by December we can have the entirety of this operation working and with good progress on corona. So I hope you got a chance to see just a glimpse of the vast amount of activity that is going on at the Hebrew University, the breakthroughs that we achieved so far, and our plans for the future, which I really hope we can tell you more about next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sari. I would like to introduce Professor Inoon Ashkenazi from the Rakach Institute of Physics. He is also an advisor to the government's Corona Cabinet and will now give a brief report on the contributions of the Hebrew University interdisciplinary team to COVID-19 mitigation strategies in Israel.
Hello, my name is Inoon Ashkenazi. I'm an associate professor at the Rakach Institute of Physics here at the Hebrew University. I am happy that I have the opportunity to describe to this distinguished forum the work a group of us here were involved in over the last few months. We established an interdisciplinary group, including researchers from the Hadassah Hebrew University Medical Center and School of Public Health and Physics. We provided support in managing policy mitigation strategies against the COVID-19 epidemic here in Israel. As the COVID pandemic started to evolve and seemed to trickle towards Israel, we fitted simple numerical models adjusted to the Israeli population age distribution. At an early stage, we were able to warn from the oncoming tsunami and the necessity of immediate action. But even more important was that we showed real estimates of the advantage of a policy which is now widely accepted. We demonstrated that focusing policy on protecting elderly and vulnerable population leads to significant order of magnitude change in predicted fatalities and reduced the risk of ICU overload. Our analysis was based on local age-aware model fitted to various model countries at a more advanced epidemic stage on that date. The availability of the real numerical estimate at such an early stage and our ability to respond in very short, even few hours time, to the fast evolving epidemic conditions enabled predictive modeling of possible mitigation policies. This unique combined ability led to our incorporation as an integral part of the advising body to the Corona Cabinet, which we provide with routine situation and policy analysis. Following this initial stage, we searched for a mitigation control parameter to identify policy effects and epidemic monitoring. While positive PCR tests seem to provide a fast and accurate control parameter, it is strongly affected both by test policy and availability and public response. Moreover, it turned out that testing suffered from long inherent delays. This led us to use an alternate measure, namely the total number of hospitalized patients at level above moderate. These patients promptly arrive at hospitals and are identified with reliability. In the slide, you see the evolution of the moderate plus number of patients, which we call the MP number, versus time, with markings of different policy decisions, and the correlation of variation of this parameter with some of the steps taken. Using the MP dynamics, we identify the initial stages of the second surge in the epidemic reliably. Even though, at the same time, test policy and availability were modified significantly, which rendered the use of positive case unreliable. In addition, we showed that the initiation of mass gathering was the critical event leading to the second surge eruption, while the limited control opening of the education system, surrounded in the green circle in the slide, did not. Furthermore, MP trajectories can yield epidemic reproduction numbers at a given policy regime. You can see in the slide in black reproduction number derived from positive COVID cases, and in blue, the number we derive from the MP trajectory. Although delayed by 3-4 days, the numbers are similar. But remember that this number is highly reliable and agnostic to external effects. These slides are a direct reproduction of slides presented in cabinet meetings, and I minimally translated only necessary titles. This slide demonstrated that the second surge started with the opening of mass gatherings and full education system opening, rather than the initial stages where street-based commerce and bubble-based education activity were renewed. Using our experience and observing variation in reproduction numbers in other countries in response to mitigation strategies, we provided short-term forecasting of the expected trajectory of the reproduction number and the resulting infection rate and hospitals load. For example, in mid-August, we warned that unless immediate action was taken, a new surge resulting from public behavior would erupt. Without rapid policy change, a second lockdown will be inevitable. Our analysis's advantage is that we were able to identify trends and demonstrate implication of changes in policy and population behavior, even when in mid-August case numbers seems to stand at a constant. Our tools are since used routinely to provide optimistic, pessimistic, and nominal forecasts that allow basing policy options on numerical estimates of expected response in affected population, hospital load, and fatalities. During the third phase of the second surge, we predicted maximal possible loads on hospitals, a critical planning tool for immediate response planning. Later, we demonstrated that predicted surge decay times. Nominal and bound forecasts, as well as comparison to observed values, are demonstrated in the slide you see before you. A primary consideration here was to provide a reasonable upper and pessimistic bound on numbers, which will allow prudent response to evolving conditions prior to actual events. This work was, for us, a new experience. In this teamwork, the emphasis was on reliable, real-time estimates and policy analysis, rather than our usual emphasis on novelty and repetitive long validation process. The fact that we were able to gather a multidisciplinary team, including expertise in nonlinear dynamics, epidemiology, and infectious diseases, proved critical in our ability to provide clinical-based numerical estimation and policy analysis that were needed to support our local community. I think the Hebrew University is unique in that it provided the platform to form this team and allowed us to contribute in such a positive way on a national level. For us, it was a new experience, and we plan to keep it working. I hope, though, that on more friendly topics, and strongly hope we will move on past this COVID crisis. I also hope that we will be able to host all of you here in Jerusalem next year in a post-COVID world. With this, I conclude, and I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to take part in this effort and to shortly describe our efforts to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ashkenazi. Professor Roger Korenberg is a structural biologist at Stanford University. For the last 3 decades, he has spent a few months each year at the Hebrew University conducting research and working at Zilberman Institute for Life Sciences as a full member of the faculty. In 2006, Professor Korenberg was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his studies of the molecular basis of eukaryotic transcription. In other words, the process by which DNA turns into RNA. Professor Hermona Sorek is an Israeli researcher of molecular neurobiology. She is a professor emeritus at the Zilberman Institute for Life Sciences and at the Edmond and Lily Center for Brain Sciences, and is the first woman to serve as Dean of the Faculty of Science. Let's listen in on a conversation between Professor Sorek and Professor Korenberg as they discuss science and research.
So, hi everyone. It's my great honor and pleasure to have the opportunity to interview today Professor Roger Korenberg. And everyone in the world is talking about this new immunization of RNA. And not all of us remember who discovered the way RNA is produced. So, Roger, could you please let us know briefly, what did you win the Nobel Prize for?
Thank you, Mona, and it's a pleasure for me to speak with you as always. The citation for the prize was for molecular studies of eukaryotic transcription. Eukaryotic refers to all organisms, from single-cell creatures like yeast to the most complex like humans. Transcription is the process whereby RNA is synthesized. RNA is produced by reading the genetic message in DNA and the production of a molecule called RNA that contains the same information for expression of the genetic information. We discovered both a molecular computer and the machinery that controls transcription, and the machinery for the process of transcription for RNA synthesis itself. I think many listeners would be surprised to know that every cell in our body contains the complete genetic information, all that is needed for the construction of the entire organism. It would seem surprising because we are made up of at least 200 different kinds of cells. Nerve cells, muscle cells, blood cells, skin cells, and so forth. The question then arises, if every cell contains the same information, why do they differ? And the answer is the selective use of the genetic information. A nerve cell expresses only the information, makes only the RNA molecules relevant to its requirements. Similarly, for a muscle cell, the nerve cell does not express any of the information that is required to make a muscle cell or a skin cell or what have you. As I have mentioned, we discovered a molecular computer that controls the process. It receives information from within the cell and from the environment. It delivers the message to the enzyme responsible for synthesis of RNA, telling it what gene, what information to copy, at what place, to what extent, at what time in the life of the organism. As in regard to coronavirus, as it happens, this is a member of a family of viruses whose genome consists of RNA. The genome of the virus directs the synthesis of additional RNA molecules that carry the genetic message of the virus in the same way as occurs in the manner I have described for our bodies and other like organisms. The coronavirus has its own machinery for conducting that process. That machinery for the production of RNA molecules of the virus is a prime target for therapeutic measures. Many people will have heard of a drug called remdesivir, produced by the Gilead Corporation, which is now used for treatment of coronavirus infection. Remdesivir is an inhibitor. It blocks the activity of the machinery for making viral RNA. It is only one example of many such inhibitors that are being pursued now, and better ones will doubtless emerge in the future. There are other approaches for tackling the problem of RNA virus infection. For example, I work with a company in Petah Tikva where we are creating molecules for the destruction of viral RNA. These molecules may be introduced by inhalation in order to deliver them directly to the site of infection in the lung. Destruction of viral RNA is a therapeutic measure which mimics a natural process that you, Mona, know very well and have studied extensively in your own work. These are only two examples of how our studies and knowledge, coming not only from our work, but from that of many others, may be brought to bear not only on addressing, not only on the current crisis, not only on this pandemic, but for the intervention in the future in viral disease more generally, in pandemic disease, such as will doubtless once again arise.
Yeah, I remember when they announced that President Trump was treated with remdesivir, which is an experimental drug, and a clinician from Hadassah Hospital said, "This is an approved drug. We give it to any patient who needs it." So it's good to know that drugs are developed, tested, and used for the benefit of mankind. We've been working in the same department, at least every summer, for several decades now. Could you let us know what brought you to the Hebrew University?
The Department of Biological Chemistry at the Hebrew University, where I have had the privilege of pursuing this work for the past nearly 40 years, and with the benefit of your help and guidance, is absolutely world-class. It is one of the best environments for pursuing such work any place in the world. I have been successful in part because of the privilege of working in the department at the Hebrew University. And it is a great concern of mine, as well as yours, to preserve it as such, to bring it to the next level, to sustain the excellence of the department, indeed the whole institute in which it resides, for the benefit of the university and for the benefit of all who will ultimately make use of the fruits of our labors.
Well, I hope that your wishes and mine will come true in spite of the turmoil that the entire world is going through right now. Could you let us know how, in what way does your work today relate to corona research?
The coronavirus is an RNA virus. The genome of the virus is actually an RNA molecule. It performs precisely the same functions as the RNA molecules that are the product of transcription to which I referred. It is doubtless subject to the regulation which you, Mona, have elucidated and that you continue to study in your own laboratory. Therefore, the studies that you and I both perform are directly relevant to understanding and controlling the activity of the coronavirus, as well as, of course, the entire family of RNA viruses, which make up a very large fraction of all of those that are cause of human disease.
Well, as you know, we work on RNA too. And of course, under the circumstances, we looked at what happens to RNA in cells and tissues and people who get infected. And we've recently shown that not only the virus affects the lung, which was clear to begin with, but that it also affects the brain. And then there was a paper that I was called to talk about on television because the investigators proved that this virus indeed can affect brain nerve cells. And the person at television said, "That's very bad news." I said, "No, it's good news. We need to know." Because when patients come to their family clinicians and say, "I have difficulties in memory and focusing and thinking ever since I got infected," no one will say, "Oh, this is rubbish, it's a lung virus." It's a much more general infection paradigm, and the genotype, the people who are infected, make a difference. Some people are much more sensitive than others. At least this is what our analysis work says. So what do you think can be a solution to prove this, to solve this difficult issue?
So it's notable, as I have mentioned, that the virus expresses its genetic information in the same way as human cells, as I have described. In particular, there is a machinery for producing genetic messages of the virus from its genome, an enzyme such as I alluded to before, just as occurs in human cells. The enzyme at the center of that machinery of the viral apparatus is one of the prime targets for drug development. Many of our listeners will have heard of remdesivir, produced by the Gilead Corporation. Remdesivir is an inhibitor of the viral enzyme for transcription of the viral genome into RNA. Remdesivir is not the best possible inhibitor. Better ones can be found. And with the current interest in doing so, I'm sure that others will emerge. At the same time, there are alternative methods of attacking the RNA genome and the messenger RNA made by transcription from that genome of the virus. Indeed, with a group in Israel based in Petah Tikva, I have been pursuing a technology for the destruction of viral RNA, a method for introducing molecules into cells that will lead to the selective breakdown of viral message, of viral RNA, without any harm done to human RNA. These are just two examples of ways in which our knowledge and the technology developed over the years worldwide may be applicable to coronavirus, I think, in the very near future, and I hope with very significant benefit. But I might add, beyond the application to coronavirus, to many other viruses, once these lessons have been learned and applied.
Would you like to tell us a little more about your family and how do they feel about living in Israel?
My wife is my longest and closest collaborator. My wife, Yali Lorch, is Israeli and a double graduate of the Hebrew University. Yali received both her undergraduate and graduate degrees from the Hebrew University. Indeed, her PhD is in virology and specifically on the subject of RNA viruses. So Yali, who, as I have said, works side by side with me in the laboratory and has done for the last 40 years, is a greater expert than I am on the subject that we have just discussed. She works, of course, with me on a daily basis at the Hebrew University in the Department of Biological Chemistry at the Institute of Life Sciences. My children, two of whom reside in Tel Aviv and one with us in Jerusalem, are a different kind of scientist. My daughter, a political scientist, and my youngest son studying computer science, but nevertheless, all interested in some way or other in what I might call the family business.
So I don't know if you remember, but many, many years ago, I asked you, how long do you plan to come every June with the kids and your wife and a big cylinder with your frozen cells for experiments and spend here 4 months? This is really tough. And you said, I'll do that as long as I have to until I'll be able to make my own decisions, and then I'll move to Jerusalem. So I doubted it then, and it's a real pleasure to know that things happened exactly as you planned it then.
Well, we were very fortunate, and indeed for the last several years we've spent almost all of our time at the Hebrew University. I do go back from time to time to visit and advise students at Stanford, but now our lives are based in Jerusalem.
Perhaps one last point to ask you, how did you feel when you won an honorary PhD on the amphitheater in Mount Scopus, looking at the Dead Sea?
I can only tell you it was a lifetime experience, unforgettable. That's an image which is burnished in memory. I will never forget it.
Would you care to let us know about the series of international courses that you organize here for the benefit of all of us and especially the students of the Hebrew University?
I'm responsible for one of several international schools which are supported by the Rothschild Foundation and which are held under the aegis of the Institute for Advanced Studies of the Hebrew University. A school in physics held each year, organized by David Gross, a Nobel laureate in theoretical physics. A school in economics, which for many years was led by Nobel laureate Ken Arrow, one of the great economists of our time. And when he passed away recently in his 90s, continues to be led by his former student, also a Nobel laureate, Eric Maskin. In addition, a school in mathematics, and there was a school in genetic studies, discontinued only a short while ago. The school in life science, which I lead, has been focused on a different subject, a different area of life science each year. For example, structural biology, for example, signal transduction in cells, for example, the cell nucleus and relevant transactions, and so forth. The school which we will hold shortly will be on a subject of great current interest at the Hebrew University as well, on a new state of molecules, a state of matter in cells, which is believed to have important consequences for cell function. The schools have a distinctive character. We organize them, as the name implies, schools for educating students, fellows, and others, but they really are a hybrid of both retrospective and current or prospective presentation. So the participants in the school, those who lecture, speak about how they discovered what they found, which brings them to the school, as well as what they actually discovered and what they are doing at the present time, and where the work is headed. I particularly enjoy the presentation of how they discovered what they found, which I think is also most interesting to students and most memorable, and helps to remember the actual factual information that is imparted. The schools have not only been well attended by well over 100 students and faculty each year, but greatly appreciated by the sophisticated participants who come to lecture in the schools. These are lecturers from the United States and Europe, as well as from around Israel, and they have invariably told me how much they enjoyed the format and the content and the presentations made at the schools. I've learned a great deal from them, and I look forward to continuing to participate in this in the way that we have done it. You, Mona, of course, have helped me so much in the past with the organization. Others in the department have been exceedingly helpful, as well as others in Israel have contributed to the organization. As I say, I've learned a lot. I viewed it as a modest contribution, the best, or one of the things I can try and do to be helpful. I'm always eager to do more.
Wow, so perhaps our distinguished members of the Board of Governors would be welcome to go back to the classes of the Hebrew University, which is accessible today because we all teach via Zoom. So any guests would be welcome, and perhaps it's time for all of us to learn a little more about what RNA is doing and what we can do to help human health and well-being via the knowledge acquired at the Hebrew University, at Stanford, and especially by distinguished scientists such as yourself. Thank you so much, Roger.
With great pleasure, Mona. Thank you again.
Thank you very much to Professor Hermona Sorek and Professor Roger Korenberg. Looking ahead to next year, we wanted to share a fresh perspective. We looked for an inspirational person, someone with a unique, fascinating, and hopeful view of the world. Bernard-Henri Lévy is well known and adored by the Israeli public. Vice President Yossi Gal is about to sit down with him for a conversation. Let's go see what they're talking about.
Bernard-Henri Lévy hardly needs an introduction. An intellectual, a philosopher, a journalist, a writer, and a filmmaker, BHL, as he is better known in France, is undoubtedly one of the most prominent intellectuals of our era and one of the most influential philosophers of our time. He is a close friend of the Hebrew University, where he was honored with the prestigious honorary doctorate from the University of Albert Einstein, Sigmund Freud, and Martin Buber. In his acceptance speech in that ceremony on June 1st, 2008, Bernard-Henri Lévy referred to our institution as a symbol of a miracle, where Israel and the diaspora are reconciled through universal values. He also described Hebrew University as the place witnessing the resurrection of the Hebrew language. And indeed, 2 years ago, we celebrated the miracle of our centennial, our 100th birthday, as a university established a whole generation before the establishment of the State of Israel. BHL has written more than 30 books and has been advocating and raising awareness about every possible conflict in every corner of the globe in his pursuit of justice, in Bangladesh, in Libya, in Iraq, to name just a few. He's always been the voice of reason and integrity. Bernard-Henri Lévy has just published his book, The Virus in the Age of Madness, which to my mind is the first serious intellectual look into the pandemic engulfing us, making our dialogue today even more timely. And on a personal note, during my years in Paris, I had this unique privilege of making the pilgrimage to meet BHL every time I needed to consult with a smart person. And we would exchange ideas regularly on a variety of issues, from peace negotiations to global developments to anti-Semitism. I'm therefore extremely proud to introduce Bernard-Henri Lévy once again to the Hebrew University Board of Governors. Cher Bernard, je vous remercie infiniment au nom de l'Université hébraïque de Jérusalem pour votre amitié. C'est vraiment un grand plaisir de vous avoir parmi nous aujourd'hui. Good evening, Bernard. Welcome back, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, my dear Yossi. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. The pleasure and the honor are for me. Your university is so prestigious, and to have been once or twice, one of the honorees of your university has been one of the prides of my life. So I'm happy to be back today.
I have a few questions on the pandemic. And let's start with the fact that the corona pandemic has changed life in a profound manner. Social habits, employment, relations in the family, governments, etc. What lasting impact is this going to have on us as a society once cure is found?
I hope that it is just a terrible crisis, but not a crisis. And I do hope that we will not keep in heritage some two new habits. Because, you see, at the end of the day, I liked a world where you could shake hands. I liked a world where you could hug. I liked a world where a secular Jew could do his duty, who was to go to the most remote people and to help and to secure. I loved a world where less secular Jews devoted to study, could study together in a real yeshiva and not by Zoom. This world of yesterday, was not so bad. So I really hope that the social consequences will not be too dramatic. It would be very bad.
Well, this world of yesterday is, to my mind, much better than the world of today. But Bernard, governments have taken some significant emergency measures. Some of these necessary measures certainly reflect an infringement on basic human rights, such as closures, curfews, lockdowns, closure of academic and religious institutions. How concerned are you, as an intellectual, that once cure is found, all of these draconian measures will not be used to curtail in certain societies some basic human rights?
I am concerned. Honestly, I am concerned. Not because I suspect any devilish will or diabolical wish in those who govern us. I don't believe that. But I fear that in the societies themselves, liberty, freedom, rights, and so on, they are a joy and they are also a burden. We all know that freedom is a joy, an exultation, but also a burden. It's not so easy to be free. So my concern is that we could be numerous to think that at the end of the day, a life without the burden of freedom is not so bad. I hope that I'm concerned that a lot of our co-citizens might think that it is a good deal, or it might be a not too bad deal to exchange our freedom against 100% health security. And this would be a devilish deal. In France, I saw today that 75% of the population was comfortable with the curfew which was decided yesterday night. It's a lot. Maybe this curfew is useful. I don't know, I'm not a doctor. But even if it is useful, even if it has to be observed and obeyed, it is a nightmare. It is another style of life. And I'm ready to respect it, but with the feeling, the deep feeling, that it can be only an exceptional state. I'm afraid to see many people believing that the exception can be the rule or can partly shape the new rule. This is my concern, that we might face a slow but steady change in our way of being together, in our civilization, in other words. This is a possibility and a bad one.
Well, you know, not only because I represent an academic institution, but to my private, humble opinion, the solution to this crisis will come from researchers and scientists, not necessarily from politicians and governments. And my question to you is, as a result, will society better appreciate science, better understand the importance of science? Et en plus, what is the role of the intellectual in this evaluation?
The democracies who respect better science, the societies who respect better science are of course democracies. The scientists are not at home at all in autocratic regime or totalitarian regime. Democracy is their home. Though you can have also in democracies some danger on science. I saw a few weeks ago in an editorial of the scientific magazine, American scientific magazine, Nature, an editorial saying two things: that scientists had to be online with the new anti-racist movement Black Lives Matter, which is fine. But the editorial said a second thing, that to be part of or to be sympathetic with Black Lives Matter could imply some consequences in the very practice, in the very exercise of the science itself. This is in the model of democracy of the world, one of the models, which is America. And it's very serious. It means that even in a democratic regime, we can have some reflexes like, you know, Lysenko in the Stalinian regime. So no regime is completely immune against a distrust on science. Democracies are more comfortable, but we have to be very careful also. What can an intellectual do about that? Number one, to hunt and to chase and to all these sort of tendencies, which is the tendencies to oblige science to obey to ideological purposes. This is the death of science. Anti-racism is a great cause, but it cannot be the umbrella under which science scholars make their research. Number two, intellectuals have to call for respect of independent and free research. But number three, science is not, and I'm speaking here as an intellectual and as a Jew, science is not an idol. Science is not God. Scientists can sometimes be mistaken. You have in the field of science some quarrels, some fights, as in the field of philosophy. truth in science is an aim, a target which has to be pursued, but it is not given as the word of God. It is the result of a work, of a research, of some back and forth, and so on. An intellectual could also remind this to some of those who could believe that science is a new religion. Science has to be respected, but it is not sacred, or it not even better, it is not saint.
Well, of course it is not sacred. The very nature of science is that the ability to ask questions. This is so well enshrined into our Jewish tradition. We don't accept anything for granted. We don't accept anything as if one cannot pose questions. But let me ask you this. Not a single country, I think, was spared of this plague, which means that this is a global crisis, covering our entire globe. Yet it comes at a time where international cooperation, globalization, or joint action are not at their peak, to say the least. Is it each one to his own, or is there hope for some joint global action facing a global threat?
It has to be. And honestly, you have two tendencies today. There is a tendency, of course, to break with globalization. This is, alas, the trend of the diplomacy of our American friends since a few years. Not only the last administration, the previous one also. Obama administration, as much as the Trump administration, had a tendency to not to deglobalize, but at least to distrust or to make some breaches in old alliances we had with Israel, with France, with Europe. So there is this process. On the other side, you have a very strong holding process of globalization. And what happens today in scientific research is one of the examples of that. If we go through this crisis, if we go through this pandemic better than the pandemic of 1958, the Asiatic crisis, better that, I hope so, the Spanish flu of 1918, or even more, again, less dramatically than the old plagues of Middle Age, it will be because of the globalization of research. It will be because today you have some scientists of Los Angeles, of Jerusalem, of Paris, of Berlin, of Auckland in Australia, who exchange their researches, who exchange their anxieties and their findings, despite the borders, despite sometimes the craziness or the egoism or the diplomatic coldness of the cold monster who are often the states. So you have the two processes. And vive les savants, long life to the researchers, because they keep alive this spirit of globalization.
Well, I fully agree. I think that in the academia, in the academic world, internationalization is really a key word. You can hardly find a paper being published not being signed by scientists from Europe, from the United States, from Israel, from China. So globalization or internationalization is key to our world. But let me ask you one other question that is not confined necessarily only to Corona, and this is about social media. There has been much talk of late of the dangers of social media, its ability to disseminate fake news, to divide people, to aggregate too much power in the hands of a few, saying that it's wreaking havoc on our political systems. Yet it also has been said that it gives many more platforms for free speech, for connecting people from afar. As an intellectual, how do you think social media is affecting our civilization at this point in time?
My dear Yossi, my dear ambassador, personally, I do my best to try to have the best use possible of the social media. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm trying to post some real contents and so on. But to be honest, I am afraid of the development of the social media. I'm afraid because first you said it yourself, it gives the same weight, the same importance to a real news and a fake news. They don't have any criterion inside themselves to make the difference between the truth and the lie. The freedom for everyone to express his own opinion has turned into the freedom of everyone to have his opinion judged as equivalent to the opinion of the scientist or the scholar. This is a real concern. This idea of a freedom of speech, which turns out to be the equality between nuts and truth, this is the point. Another point, I'm afraid also, you know, in Instagram and so on, you have some friends, okay? Some followers or some friends. I'm sometimes afraid that the more friends you have on Facebook, the less you have in real life. That it is like a fake currency of friendship which is available in these social networks and which wipes out the real currency of true, deep, genuine friendship. So there are some real civilization concerns, and I'm not even speaking of what happens. We all have this experience, what happens with our memory. We all have this experience during a dinner between friends or between a lunch with our beloved. We are looking for a souvenir and automatic gesture. We put the hand in our pocket and we Google. Google has become a sort of portable memory, a memory in the pocket. There is in the history of Christianity a story, a legend of Saint Denis. You know Paris, you know the hill of Saint Denis. He was a martyr of the first century of the Christianity, and the legend says that he was beheaded, and that after being beheaded, he took his head under his arm, and he climbed the hill with his head under the arm. We all are with not our head, but our memory in our pockets. We all are sort of Saint Denis. This syndrome of Saint Denis, this externalization of our memory into a little machine, this is a new phenomenon which really dates from the social media. And if I were a scientist, if I were one of those brilliant, the best in the world, scientists of the brain of the Hebrew University, I will really fund or work on a study on that. What happens with the mechanisms of our memory with this new syndrome of Saint Denis, which is due to Google?
Well, I'll tell you, you mentioned luncheons and dinners. I'm even concerned when we were still allowed to have our children and grandchildren come for dinner. They all sit around the table and all the kids sit with their cellular phone, and how much of an interaction there is. But, you know, one last question that I want to ask on something that I know is very close to your heart and very close to my heart, and this is on anti-Semitism. I remember very well my service in Paris, which started at around the time of the massacre of the Toulouse children, and ended up, unfortunately, at the time of the Jewish supermarché in Charlie Hebdo. And of course, it is not, anti-Semitism is not confined to France. Suffice it to mention the October 2018 in Pittsburgh synagogue, October 2019 in Halle, Germany. Are we, Bernard, are we doomed to live with anti-Semitism from now to eternity?
We might, yes. I think we might. I think that anti-Semitism is here. It is probably, it has a sort of structural, like a structural place in our civilizations. The question is it contained? Do we resist it or not? And do we give ourselves the means to resist it properly? Since World War II till maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we did. We had proper means, proper ideological weapons to resist it. There was also this Jewish pride, which was promoted a lot by the survivors of the war and by the children and their grandchildren, which contributed a lot to keep into respect the anti-Semites. Today, I'm not so sure that the front line still holds as well. I see, alas, an uprise, an increase, a progress, if I can say, of anti-Semitism, not only in France. It would be too simple, all over the world. And I must say, anti-Semitism being, as you know, the new anti-Semitism, being a complex mix of a few intellectual devices, anti-Zionism, denial of Holocaust, and competition of victims, let's say. For me, these are the three pillars of the new anti-Semitism. Alas, these three devices who can make, if they join, like three threads, the atomic bomb of anti-Semitism, they are present everywhere, even in America. Our dear friends, Americans, they have some of the most powerful so-called institutes of denial of Holocaust, of negationism. They have a real tendency to have the victimhoods and the suffering memories to fight against each other. You have too many people today in the States who are saying you have to choose in your heart, in your own heart, if you bleed for the Jews or if you bleed for another minority. And this idea that we will have to choose between two victimhoods and two memories is one of the components of a possible anti-Semitism. And you have in America too a growing anti-Zionism. I know that it can seem odd to say it, but it was odd 20 years ago, not so odd since 10 years. So these three components being the DNA of the new anti-Semitism, alas, there is no democracy in the world, not to say no country, which can pretend to be free of them. So we have to be more careful than ever and more strong than ever. And I say strong because I do believe that against anti-Semitism, the reply is not crying, is not complaining. The reply is to act with moral, intellectual, and if we can, spiritual strength. Strength, I mean, the strength of the mind, and sometimes in extreme situation, the other strengths, as Israel knows well, But this moral strength is the real weapon that can weaken or keep in respect anti-Semitism.
Well, my dear Bernard, you'll be very happy to know that your university, the Hebrew University, which is opening the school year right now, is going through a record number of new students, which is an indication of the fantastic level of our university. And whenever conditions allow and the skies are open, we would love to see you again with us here at your beautiful university. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. I could not really think of a more better way to conclude this fantastic Board of Governors of the Hebrew University. And again, I wish you lots of good health and hope to see you soon in Jerusalem.
Thank you. Soon in Jerusalem. I would like to be able to shake hands, but we do virtually.
Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you, Yossi.
Thank you, Yossi Gal and Bernard-Henri Lévy. We are nearing the end of the Board of Governors and of our broadcast. I am pleased to invite to the stage once again the President of the Hebrew University, Professor Asher Cohen, who will wrap up the 2020 Board of Governors. Professor Cohen, please.
Thank you, Romy. Thank you all. Well, I guess you'll have to agree that this was a Board of Governors quite unlike any other Board of Governors in many different ways. We had over 400 people that actually watched this Board of Governors in the Zoom, and many others via other media outlets around. This is really quite special. I think we had a lot of interesting talks. We had quite a lot of insights that we heard today from many different people. We heard about our Hebrew University and what we do, which is so pleasing to me and I believe to my other management team to see here and to experience. So it was a lot of fun, but I hope it's not going to be like this again in the future. It feels like the NBA playoffs where you see really great games, but no audience around, except on the Zoom. So it's great, it was exciting, we heard a lot of things, but please, next year, here in Jerusalem, like Bernard-Henri Lévy said, hugging, shaking hands, having fun, and enjoying it. I do predict, by the way, that the next Board of Governors, just like teaching, will not be what it used to be. We will probably be able to mix it up with a little bit of online broadcasting as well, so that those of you who cannot come to Israel will be able to enjoy some of it, maybe all of it. But please, come to Jerusalem. We'll see you, you'll see us. We'll be a family in the ancient way of what family is about. Thank you all very much for your participation. I hope you enjoyed it as we did, and לשנה הבאה בירושלים.
Thank you. Thank you to the President of the University, Professor Cohen. We are nearing the end of our program. When planning the board, we wanted to end on a high note. When we were looking for a musical performance, who knew that we would find one on campus? We believed that we found the perfect combination of uplifting music that also touches upon the theme of human health. I am proud to introduce a band whose members include Hebrew University researchers who combine science, medicine, and the love of music. Bo and the Hoogies is a 5-member band. 4 members are researchers at the Faculty of Medicine in En Kerem, and the 5th member, Bo, is in high tech. The band will now perform 2 songs.
Mott the Hoople and the game of life. Yeah, 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 yeah. Andy Kaufman and the wrestling match. Yeah, 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 yeah. Monopoly 21, checkers and chess. Yeah, 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 yeah. Mr. Fred Blassie and the breakfast mess. Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's play Twister, let's play Risk. Yeah, 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 yeah. See you in heaven if you make the list. Yeah, 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 yeah. Now, Andy, did you hear about this one? Tell me, are you locked in the punch? Andy, are you moving on Elvis? Hey, baby, are we losing touch? If you believe they put a man on the moon, man on the moon. If you believe there's nothing up his sleeve, then nothing is cool. Moses went walking with a staff of wood. Yeah, 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 yeah. Newton got beamed from the apple good. Yeah, 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 yeah. Egypt was troubled by the horrible asp. Yeah, 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 yeah. Mr. Charles Darwin had the gall to ask. Yeah, 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 yeah. Now, Andy, did you hear about this one? Tell me, are you locked in the punch? Andy, are you goofing on Elvis? Hey, baby, are we having fun? If you believe they put a man on the moon, man on the moon. If you believe there's nothing up his sleeve and nothing is cool. Here's a little adjunct for the never believers. Yeah, 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 yeah. Here's a little truck for the offering. Yeah, 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 yeah. Here's a truck stop instead of St. Peter's. Yeah, 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 yeah. Mr. Andy Kaufman gone wrestling. Yeah, 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 yeah. Now, Andy, did you hear about this one? Tell me, are you locked in the punch? Andy, are you goofing on Elvis? Say, baby, are we having touch? If you believe they put a man on the moon, man on the moon. If you believe there's nothing up his sleeve, then nothing is cool. If you believe they put a man on the moon, man on the moon. If you believe there's nothing up his sleeve, nothing is cool.
Okay, we wanted to hear another song by Bo and the Hoogies, and I might tell you some interesting things about those professors. Maybe you know them from your work or from the academia. It will take me, okay. If you didn't recognize them, Professor Eilon Yavin was on vocal and keyboard, Professor Rotem Karni on vocals and guitars, Professor Rami Yaka on guitar solos, and Dr. Tamar Licht on drums, and Bo Solomon on bass guitar. We'll be able to hear another song by Bo and the Hoogies? Okay. So, I hope we will hear them later, the Bo and the Hoogies. The time has come to conclude the Hebrew University's 2020 Board of Governors. I would like to thank to everyone who helped make this special broadcast possible. Thank you to the university's management members and staff. to all participants, to the wonderful students, and of course, to you. Thank you, members of the Board of Governors. You have stood by the Hebrew University in good times and in challenging times. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to meet next year in person on the Hebrew University campus. Thank you for joining us. We're wishing everyone good health this year, and we hope to see you all here in Jerusalem at the next Board of Governors.
Monopoly